Pahalgam attack anniversary, global support for India. On the first anniversary of the Pahalgam terror attack, the US and EU reaffirmed their solidarity with India. US Ambassador Sergio Gore and the EU delegation honored the 26 victims killed on April 22, 2025. India's subsequent Operation Sindoor successfully destroyed 9 terror launch pads, leading to a brief border conflict. Next news: Iran attacks ships amid US ceasefire extension. President Trump announced an indefinite ceasefire extension with Iran, despite stalled peace talks. Simultaneously, Iran's Revolutionary Guard attacked 3 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, including the ship Euphoria. Global oil prices topped $100 per barrel, as officials warn of a historic energy crisis and heightened regional instability. Next news: Starmer refuses resignation amid envoy scandal. Prime Minister Keir Starmer insists he will not resign following allegations of misleading MPs regarding Peter Mandelson's appointment as Washington envoy. Starmer blamed dismissed official Ollie Robbins for withholding security clearance issues. However, opposition leader Kemi Badenoch questioned Starmer's judgment concerning Mandelson's past links to a Kremlin-associated defense firm. Next news: EU approves Ukraine loan and Russia sanctions. EU ambassadors have approved a €90 billion loan for Ukraine and new sanctions against Russia after Hungary lifted its veto. The breakthrough followed news that the Druzhba pipeline would resume oil transit. The deal, previously delayed by Prime Minister Viktor Orban, is expected to be finalized by Thursday afternoon. Next news: South Korea and Vietnam strengthen strategic cooperation. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and Vietnam's leader To Lam signed 12 memorandums of understanding during a summit in Hanoi on Wednesday. The agreements span nuclear power, electricity, and infrastructure. Lee emphasized expanding bilateral ties beyond trade to bolster energy security and regional cooperation between the two nations. Next news: Nepal Home Minister resigns over financial misconduct. Nepal Home Minister Sudan Gurung resigned Wednesday following allegations of improper business links. Appointed by Prime Minister Balendra Shah, Gurung stepped down to allow an impartial investigation. Shah has assumed the portfolio, marking the second cabinet exit since his government rose to power following the 2025 Gen Z protests. Next news: Iran seizes ships amid US ceasefire extension. Iranian Revolutionary Guards seized 2 commercial vessels and fired upon a third in the Strait of Hormuz this Wednesday. Despite President Trump extending the ceasefire, Tehran refuses to resume negotiations until blockades are lifted. The attacks on the MSC Francesca and Euphoria have pushed oil prices near $100 per barrel. Next news: resolving Africa's blue economy resource conflicts. Over a decade, 1,000 conflicts over Africa's marine resources have threatened livelihoods and ecosystems. Research highlights that 75% involve access to fishing grounds and forests. To ensure an equitable blue economy, experts urge inclusive decision-making, fair enforcement, and community engagement to settle disputes between sectors like tourism and small-scale fisheries. Next news: UN data reveals nearly 8,000 migrant deaths in 2025. The IOM reported 7,904 migrant deaths or disappearances globally in 2025, bringing the total since 2014 above 82,000. Sea routes to Europe remain the deadliest, plagued by invisible shipwrecks. Despite a slight decrease from 2024, officials warn that unverified cases mean the actual death toll is likely much higher. Next news: ancient golden helmet and artifacts return to Romania. A 2,500-year-old golden helmet and 3 bracelets were returned to Romania on Tuesday after being stolen from a Dutch museum in 2025. Recovered following extensive investigations, the Dacia civilization treasures arrived in Bucharest for display. While most items were recovered with minor damage, 1 golden bracelet remains missing. Next news: Israel urges Lebanon to join fight against Hezbollah. Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar called on Beirut to cooperate against Hezbollah as direct talks resume in Washington. Despite a recent truce, Israel conducted airstrikes in the Bekaa region Wednesday, citing ceasefire violations. Sa'ar labeled Hezbollah the sole obstacle to peace, urging Lebanon to reclaim its sovereignty from Iranian influence. Next news: Kyiv pushes for Zelensky-Putin summit amid stalemate. Ukraine is seeking a direct summit between President Zelensky and Vladimir Putin to revive stalled US-led peace efforts. While Zelensky accepted a US-mediated ceasefire, Putin remains resistant. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian drone strike on a Russian residential building in Syzran killed 2, highlighting the ongoing attrition and intensifying aerial warfare. Next news: US munitions stockpiles strained by Iran war. ACSIS analysis reveals US missile reserves are nearing critical limits following intense strikes in Iran. Over 39 days, forces expended nearly 1,000 Tomahawks and significantly depleted THAAD and Patriot interceptors. With production lagging, experts warn rebuilding stockpiles could take years, potentially limiting future support for allies like Ukraine. Next news: Trump hints at progress in Iran peace talks. President Donald Trump announced that good news regarding a second round of peace negotiations with Iran could emerge by Friday. The statement suggests a potential breakthrough in diplomatic efforts to stabilize the region, following recent hostilities in the Strait of Hormuz and the indefinite extension of the U.S. ceasefire. Next news: Trump ultimatum, bombing threat looms. As ceasefire expires, President Donald Trump warned that lots of bombs will fall on Iran if no deal is reached before Wednesday's ceasefire deadline. While Vice President J.D. Vance is set for talks in Islamabad, Tehran remains undecided, citing U.S. bad faith. Meanwhile, the UN reports 20,000 seafarers remain stranded by the ongoing naval blockade. Next news: Iran displays ballistic missile as peace talks stagnate. Iranian state media aired footage Tuesday of a Qatar ballistic missile at a Tehran rally, following the collapse of peace talks in Islamabad. Despite President Trump extending the ceasefire at Pakistan's request, Iran showcased the mobile-launched weapon, known for deploying cluster munitions used in previous attacks against Israel. Next news: oil prices surge despite U.S.-Iran ceasefire extension. Oil prices climbed Wednesday, with Brent crude nearing $100 per barrel, despite an extended U.S. ceasefire. Markets remain volatile following Iranian attacks on 3 commercial vessels and the seizure of 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Continued U.S. blockades and regional instability have fueled global energy supply concerns. Next news: Georgia wildfires. Mandatory evacuations as blaze hits 16,000 acres. The Pineland Road fire in South Georgia has surged to 16,000 acres, triggering mandatory evacuations in Eccles County. Currently 10% contained, the blaze is exhibiting extreme behavior, jumping fire lanes, and creating its own wind patterns. Emergency officials warn that smoky conditions will persist across the Atlanta area today. Next news: U.S. deploys Ukrainian tech to guard Saudi base. The U.S. military has deployed the Ukrainian SkyMap platform at Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan Air Base to counter Iranian drone swarms. Despite President Trump previously rejecting Ukrainian assistance, specialists are now training U.S. troops on the dashboard. The move follows significant damage to high-value assets, including E-3 AWACS planes. Next news: China unveils Atlas drone swarm system. China's People's Liberation Army has unveiled the Atlas drone swarm system, a vehicle-mounted platform capable of launching 96 coordinated drones within 5 minutes. Developed by CETC, the system enables saturation attacks and electronic disruption. Experts warn it poses significant security risks to India's border infrastructure through networked, AI-driven warfare.